The 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix. After the disgrace of Spa, which was about as entertaining as submitting a job application, we're gonna go racing at the Hungaroring, which means it's the final race ahead of the summer break. Hungary, of course, is usually a coin toss between races like 2021, where, get this, the FIA started the race in the wet with 0 shots of MILFs in the garage. This naturally made Bottas go bowling and take out half the grid. Verstappen was racing with a car stitched together with hopes and dreams, and Alonso was defending like a lion to allow Ocon of all people to win. Or 2006, where Alonso cooked everyone just for his will not to end it all, and Han Jensen bought in his first ever win in F1. But for every one of these, there's races like 2022 where Verstappen started 10th, did the 360 for the fans, and still won by 8 seconds. And Lord Gotifi went fastest. Okay, forget everything I said, maybe 2022 is actually goated. Speaking of Verstappen, my man was somehow out completing all kinds of side quests, like racing a Mustang GTD in botched Top Gear, and doing whatever this is supposed to be.
What the hell?
And for all it's worth, he has also now 100% confirmed he will stay at Red Bull for 2026, which is probably the more logical decision, but I was still hoping something crazy would happen. Anyways, this time around the track was revised and looks a bit more modern and overall better if I do say so myself. But what looks even better is Istanbul Park, that is apparently lining up the comeback of the century soon, which is lovely because it's a classic and has shown it can produce great racing in the modern era, although never underestimate F1's ability to create the most boring races ever out of absolutely legendary racetracks. In the last video I talked about how Perez has allegedly signed with Cadillac and that Mick could be getting the second seat, but now some new information has come out also suggesting the F2 driver Jack Crawford might get it instead, which certainly makes more sense than... This is especially so considering Jack is American, which fits a lot better with what they originally wanted to do with Colton Herta. Although we all know how well the last American did, so God help Cadillac. Ferrari, who've been putting pressure on Vasseur the last few races because his performance isn't good enough, as if they're not literally second in the championship, but I mean, who knows, maybe it was never that serious and John Elkann was merely testing his rage baiting skills. But the point is, Fred got a multi-year deal at Ferrari, which is significant because it means the hornball will not be around the paddock for a while, as other team principals also have long-term deals, and the only rumor around after he got sacked as far as I know was about him joining Ferrari. Oh, I forgot this clusterfuck of a team exists, so I guess I might go there, although I can't say it would be a great decision. Audi, who are joining the grid in 2026, have also finally found a title sponsor, and wouldn't you know it, it's a shady crypto company. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and after all, at least they're doing better now than what I expected, especially after they sold half the damn team to the Qatari government. But with all that said, I'm not convinced and still think they're going to suck.
Boo this man!
I'm sorry for spitting facts. Aston Martin still don't want to give up on this season and brought a new front wing to the car this weekend, even though there's like 10 races left. But if I had infinite money and the CEO of Aerodynamics was the one working on my 2026 car, I would do the same, so fair play. But either way, let's just cut to the chase. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for practice 1, where Felipe Drogovic was replacing Fernando Alonso to allow his back to recover from carrying Aston so hard. I'm not making this up, by the way, his back was literally the reason for the swap. Aaron Paul was also replacing Hulk, by the way, just like he did in Silverstone. Early on, the lap times and tire choices were all over the place as Gasly's engine gave up, probably after realizing he'll get retired next year. But it didn't take long after that for nature to take its course and have McLaren go 1-2 by gargantuan margins. Lewis Hamilton seemed to still be struggling with the car, and at this point I suggest they just give up and start trying a different approach. Aaron Paul Sauber decided to stop working, bringing out a VSC. Carlos Sainz had a big lockup into turn 1, as did Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, and Felipe Drogovic, with Albon having a moment in the chicane and Gabby going off in turn 4. Instead of the mom invasion that happened last race, we got to take a look at Charles' girlfriend instead, who has a beard now? And works at Ferrari? Since FP1's conditions were similar to qualifying, the teams bolted on the softs, which only made things worse for anyone not named McLaren. In the final moments, Piastri and Lando went into the gravel to assert dominance, but in the end, this was the finishing order. FP2 began with Hulk going off, Russell impeding Behrman and Oscar making a mistake which allowed Norris to go quickest. Red Bull appeared to be absolutely nowhere despite the upgrade to Max's car, which made him literally throw in the towel. Hamilton then cut the chicane, Stroll went fastest at one point, leaving us with only one goat who hasn't yet achieved this feat in Hungary. But when the softs came out, the gap to McLaren remained as big as ever, with Piastri going lawn mowing and still going faster, with Lando Norris almost crashing into the final corner. Carlos Sainz's radio was broken, which led to Lawson being impeded, and the two McLarens nearly crashed in the final seconds for absolutely no reason to end the session with this order. The final practice session saw really high track temperatures, so most teams didn't want to go out apart from Aston, but when they eventually did, you already know who went fastest. The Red Bull seemed to be doing better, Leclerc dipped well into the gravel, Berman locked up in turn 1 with traffic going absolutely crazy, Albon then went wide in turn 4, and Piastri had enough of fucking around and went a second faster than the next car. Yuki went off in turn 1, and Isaac Hadjar had a massive spin in the second to last corner, as Leclerc almost did the same to end the session in this order. As the track cooled down, it was time to set the grid. In Q1, Sainz went early but locked up in turn 1, but as everyone set their times, the inevitable happened, even though Piastri drove into the gravel. In the second runs, the Astons were flying and Red Bull were absolutely nowhere. Bortoleto set a great lap, and Hadjar was P3, which saw them through. Yeah, I've seen enough. Red Bull should promote Verstappen to VCARB effective immediately. Yuki and Hulk on the other hand weren't able to set good laps and got out already. Q2 was delayed slightly because of the gravel, but once it got underway, the teams came out early in fear of rain. The Astons continued their good form, and McLaren were 1-2 for the billionth time. Hamilton, who cycled through 50 rear wing configurations this weekend, was still struggling, and Charles had seen Ferrari fuck shit up too many times, so he made absolutely sure they don't this time. In the second runs, he went wide but managed to save it, Antonelli almost dropped it, which lost him too much time, Bortoleto was still cooking and got into Q3, but Hamilton heartbreakingly wasn't able to put it together and was out in 13th place, which means it's now 2 weeks in a row without making it to Q3. Q3 was delayed once more as drivers continued to abuse the gravel in turn 12. In the early runs, Stroll got his lap time deleted and Russell had fantastic pace, but sadly made a mistake in the final corner. But in the final shootout, Alonso was on fire and the McLarens completely bottled it, which means Leclerc was the one to take pole and have the honor of further ruining his pole to win ratio. Despite rain being forecast, the track was still a bit damp, but the FIA still recklessly started the race anyways, risking the drivers' lives as they get a good start apart from Lando, as he loses positions to Alonso and Russell, with the Hulkenberg jumping the start, and Verstappen getting Lawson. 2 laps later, Lando regained 4th and Max overtook Stroll. Isaac got his hands annihilated by the gravel from Berman's car, Leclerc's engine almost pooped its pants, that started the chain reaction that would ruin his race later on. Piastri was first of the leaders to box, followed by Leclerc the next lap, who locked up instantly, with Lando Norris opting for the overcut. Verstappen's strategy wasn't working, which was devastating to watch, as he nearly crashed into Hamilton into turn 4. On lap 32, Lando finally came into the box, George Russell was doing a Kimi impression, and Alonso boxed after 40 whole laps on the same set of mediums. In the second phase of pit stops, Leclerc was first in, and Piastri followed him a few laps later, which gave him fresher tires that allowed him to pass Charles, who had a lot to say about Ferrari. Ollie Berman had severe damage and such had to retire, with Leclerc continuing to fall like a brick and nearly hit Russell, who always seems to capitalize on drivers getting cooked by their team. Norris then caught a train of cars which backed him into Piastri, giving us a great battle as they nearly hit each other, but Lando was able to fend him off and win the race with a great drive and a brilliant strategy. And Alonso gets P5, followed by Bortoleto and the Sauber, who have been cooking with gas these last few races. In the Drivers' Championship, the fight is heating up as these two keep taking points off each other going into the summer break. As for the constructors, Ferrari undid the work from last week and lost all the advantage since they bottled Leclerc's race, and Hamilton. But click on the video on screen to see me explain the worst F1 teams in history, and see you next time.